Hey, how's it going, YouTube? How y'all doing today? Got an 80% chance of rain tomorrow. It's supposed to go about a half an inch over 4 or 5 hours. So it's going to be a pretty steady rain tomorrow. 80% chance of it. I'm debating right now if I'm going to be drilling seed in that front field. This evening. If the soil is just a little bit wet, seeds are gonna have a lot of problems. Planting seed in soil that's just a little bit wet. I gotta move over here. The sun's too bright this morning. If I plant seed in a soil that's just a little bit wet, what's gonna happen is that seed is gonna start germinating, and once it starts germinating, it'll send that little root out. And then if the soil's just a little bit wet, it'll dry real quick, especially with how it is right now. I tilled that soil, I plowed that soil real hard. So that soil got a lot of air in it. If it's a little bit wet right now, it'll probably be bone dry tomorrow. So if I drill seed into a field that has a lot of air in it, my seed will just end up dying. So I'm debating. Well, the seed is bone dry right now. If I put seed in the field right now, it would probably be as dry sitting on this field as it would be in a bag. In all honesty, it's that dry. The field is completely dry. So if I put seed on that field right now, it would be about the same thing as it just sitting in a bag, in terms of how dry it is. So I'm debating if I want to put the seed on the field today, then see what kind of rain we get tomorrow. If it pours real hard with the soil where it is right now, how dry it is, about how long it would take for it to absorb that moisture, well, the seed could end up washing away, or the seed could end up moving around all over the place. So I still got about 5, 6, 7 hours to think about it, and then I gotta have a decision made by tonight. I still got to go to that go give an estimate this evening for that 15-acre pasture. I forgot that the sun was so bright over that way. I still got to go give an estimate for that pasture later today. So I'm gonna go do that. I gotta go do that later today. There's a field about 20 minutes north of Dallas in a real good spot that's up for lease. I'm gonna be contacting the owner about that today. I've been thinking about if I was gonna. I actually found this property yesterday. It's 137 acres or so, 135 acres, and they're looking for $5,000 a year. So 12 months at $5,000 for $5,000. So it'd be about $400 a month for 135 acres. They're okay, so the rent is extremely high. $400 a month for 135 acres is a lot of money. Most people, they charge about $15. Usually, okay, but the reason they're charging money like that, I'm guessing, is because it's so close to Dallas. Well, it's a real good location. It's about 20 minutes from Dallas. So yep, it's 135 acres, just about 137 acres for $5,000. So I was thinking about it, and they want to sign a 2-year lease on it. So I was like, man, well, if it's a 2-year lease, I probably won't put any cattle on it. I mean, I would love to raise mama cows on it, but on a 2-year lease, that's too much of a risk. Well, what if the landowner changes their mind after that 2-year lease, right? Then I got to figure out how I'm gonna move 40, 50 cattle, 40, 50 big mama cows, and if they have calves, I'll have to move their calves around too. So I was like, well, what if I well, I'll have to contact the owner first, but if I was gonna do anything on that property, I would probably grow hay. I would grow hay, and then I would either bring it here, or I would sell it or whatever else people do with hay. So yep, I was looking at it, and well, it looked like it's a potential. I know I've been saying this whole thing about not leasing land, about how I own everything that I need, and that I would rather just take leverage from a bank to buy a piece of property than to rent it. But for $5,000 a year, I can well, and if it's that good of a location, if it's that close to Dallas, I can go back and forth from there. It wouldn't be that big of a deal. And even if when I do buy my piece of land, I could still grow hay over there. I could still grow hay over there and bring it over to my new farm, right? And so, well, it's a pretty well, I gotta talk to the people first. I gotta talk to the real estate agent. And so they got it, yep. And so I gotta see what happens with that. But it looked like it was a pretty decent opportunity. If I just grew hay on it, I could cut that hay. Oh man, I mean, like planting 100 acres. Planting 100 acres would cost something like, oh man. Right now, my seed cost for 1 acre, it goes anywhere from it's about $60, about $50 to $70 per acre. So if I went on 100 acres, I'd be looking at paying, $5,000-$7,000 just for seed to plant 100 acres. My tractor could do the work, zero problem, but I'd have to have another like $5,000-$7,000, and then I'd have to have another. Right now, fertilizer costs about as much as seed, so it's about $50-$70 per acre for fertilizer too. So I'd be paying like $15,000-$20,000, something like $15,000 to $20,000 to farm that 100 acres right now. And I don't have that much money, so yep. Well, I'd have to figure it out. I'm still kind of well. My whole thing about opportunity is that if I let opportunity pass me up, I'm just gonna be letting opportunity pass me up, right? So if I'm gonna go for it, I should say yes. I should commit to it, and then just figure it out. That's my whole big thing, is that if I believe that I have the capacity to figure it out, and I believe that I have the work ethic to get through it, then I should just say yes, and then just go for it. Because, well, farming 10 acres, it's about the same thing as farming 100 acres. You just use bigger equipment, and it takes a bit more time, right? So it's about the same thing. I highly doubt that, like if I showed up on 100 acres, I would be just fine. I mean, if I can farm 10 acres like this, I can farm 100 acres, zero problems. And so, yep, that's my big thing right now, is that why be worried, right? Why spend time worrying? I would be better. I would do better in my life if I just spent the time looking to do better, right? If I just spent the time figuring it out, I would do better than I would than I would if I spent my time worrying. Because if I'm gonna go and rent the 135 acres, I should just go do it. $5,000 a year for the rent, and then and then another about $15,000 to $20,000 a year to plant the hay crop. But on 135 acres, I'd be pulling a lot of hay. I can make a net return of probably close to $35,000 a year on that investment. It'd probably double my money. And so, when I really think about it, well, if I'm gonna do it, I should just do it. Why spend my time worrying? It takes a lot of energy to worry. Like if I go, oh my God, how am I gonna figure out how to farm? Oh my God, how am I gonna figure out how to farm this land? Oh my God, what am I gonna do about the money? That's all a waste of energy. You know, if I just go over to that field and if I can only plant 50 acres, then I'll only plant 50 acres. If I only have enough money to plant 45 acres, I'll only plant 45 acres. Because 45 acres, that'll cost me about $5,000-$10,000, right? Or something like that. I'll plant what I can. I'll sell it. I'll make the money, and then I'll invest it again. If that's what it turns into, that's what it turns into. So my whole big thing is, why worry? I would be better just spending that energy doing good, right? I would rather just spend that energy just putting in effort. You know, worrying is a waste of energy. You know, realistically, if I was gonna go and rent this 135 acres, I would just give them the $5,000 for the rent for the whole year, and then I would I would plant what I could. If I had to, I could even just herbicide the field with 2,4-D and grow prairie grass on it until I could afford to plant something like a permanent pasture Bermuda grass. Well, okay, so yesterday, I don't know what happened at my mortgage company, but my mortgage company sent me a check for $3,500. My mortgage company is saying that there was some kind of that they had too much money in my escrow, and so they sent me a check for $3,500 yesterday. And she blowing up pretty bad right here. And so I got about $3,500 now. And well, yesterday when I got the check, I was like, oh man, like this could be my little me starting to save up for a new piece of land. You know, I could put that money away and just, because I don't need the money. You know, $3,500, what am I gonna do with it? I could plant this whole field 5 times with $3,500. And so, like, I was like, you know what I'm gonna do with the $3,500 is I'm just gonna put it in my bank account, and I'm gonna hold on to the money until I buy a new piece of land. And then when I buy the new piece of land, I could use that money for it then. And so now I'm sitting on yep. Well, I mean, they said that there was too much money in my escrow is what they were saying, and they sent me a refund check. And so I said, okay, what am I gonna do? Say you know, you're wrong, take this money back? So now I'm sitting on that money. Well, I could take that $3,500 and I could pay for the just about pay for the 1-year lease on that 135 acre farm. It's not a farm, it's a piece of land, but they want $5,000 a year for it. And I was like, man, I could take this money and I could just pay for that property if I wanted to, and then I could just figure it out. Or I could hold on to that money and use it and hold on to that money until I buy more land, and then I could use that money to pay for a good piece of that land. Because if Senor at the feed store is looking to get his field planted, and I charge him for it, I'll have thousands of dollars. I'll have about $5,000 sitting in my bank account. And so yep, I mean, $5,000, man. Well, I don't even know how I'd spend that. Because if I was gonna plant this whole field, I fertilized it again yesterday. I just dumped the rest of the fertilizer on it before the rain started, just because I ain't trying to be out here fertilizing when the field is all muddy. But if I was gonna plant this whole field, my front field and this back field all together, it would cost me about $1,000. Maybe $1,500 at the most. And so yeah, I don't even know. You know, now I'm sitting on $5,000. And so I was like, man, I could use this money to buy more property, or I could just lease the 135 acres. I could just rent the 135 acres. Well, yep. I mean, Yeah, got a lot to consider right now. I also got to consider about what I'm gonna do with that front field. Am I gonna plant it tonight? The grass is growing in real good, even though we haven't really gotten any rain. The grass is still growing just because the weather is so mild, and we got a lot of rain. This soil holds a lot of water. When this soil starts drying out, it's easy to tell because the soil will start splitting open. And so as long as the soil ain't splitting open, the soil's got water in it, so the grass is still growing. There's still enough moisture in the soil to keep it together. And so, well, so the grass is still growing. I got to fertilize yesterday. By tonight, I got to figure out if I'm going to go and plant the front field before it starts raining tomorrow. There's an 80% chance of a ½ inch of rain tomorrow happening over about 4 or 5 hours. So it'll be about a 1/10 inch of rain an hour. And then I got to go give I got to go get an estimate to the man who's looking to have his 15 acres planted. I'm sitting on like $4,000 or $5,000. And I got to debate. The big question about the money is, do I want to rent 135 acres with that money, or do I want to buy 50 acres with that money? Because with $5,000, I could rent 135 acres, or I could buy 50 acres. $5,000 puts me in a realistic position of hard cash. If I have $5,000 of hard cash, that puts me in a realistic position to buy or rent a large sum of property. And with the equipment that I have now, I can go farm that property. I don't have to buy any more equipment. Or I could well, I mean, my interest rates are so low on my equipment. It's like, why would I pay my equipment off right now? I know that that's kind of a well, I mean, okay, over the course of like 5 years, I'll have paid something like $1,000 or like $500 or something like that in total interest for all of my equipment. And so it's like $100 to $200 a year of interest. And so I'm just kind of like, you know what, whatever. You know, if it allows me to hold on to capital, I would rather just pay the interest, right? And so if I got, I mean, yeah, because I mean, you know, like, how do I even spend $5,000, right? If someone gave me $5,000 of cash, that is a huge opportunity. You know, I could well, realistically, what does $5,000 mean, right? It means I could go and rent 135 acres for a year. $5,000 means that I could go and buy 50 to 75 acres and pay for about 3 to 4 months of leverage on it. And within those 3 to 4 months, I could have produced a crop that would pay for the field itself. You see what I'm saying? If $5,000 is I got to really think about how I'm going to spend that much money. Well, because if I take the 4 to 5, okay, so here's the thing. If I bought my own property, right? The great thing about owning my own property, if I took that $5,000 and I leveraged it, and I took a loan, and the bank said, hey man, you got to pay me $1,000 a month to have this 50-acre property, or $2,000 a month to have this 50-acre property. Excuse me, it'd be about $2,000 to have about 75 acres. And if I took that loan, I could pay for about 2.5 months on that loan just by with that $5,000. And in those 2.5 months, I could have planted, you know, within a week. In all honesty, with the equipment that I have right now, if someone gave me 3 days, 2 days, man, if my life depended on it, I could do it in 1 day. Like, if someone said, hey man, you got to do this right now, or I'm gonna pull this trigger and blow your brains out, I would do it in 1 day. I could do 75 acres with the equipment I have right now. I could do it in 1 day. And so, I mean, realistically, you know, 2.5 months, 3.5 months, it's enough time for me to grow an entire crop of annual grass. And I could sell that grass, make money on it, and then start paying for the property with the money that I make on the property. But instead of buying a 50 to 75 acre field, that $50, or excuse me, that $5,000, if I took that much money and I rented a property, I could rent a property that's about twice as large. I can rent 135 acres instead of owning 50 to 75 acres. And so, hey, big boy following me around, hit me with his head. Come on, man. And so, yep. But the thing about renting property is that I'll have, and it's a 2-year lease too. So if the man said after 2 years, they said, "Oh man, we don't want you here anymore, you got to go," then I'd have to leave the property. And that's my big reason for I wouldn't put cattle on that property. If they signed a 50-year lease with me at $5,000 a year, that'd be a different story. But 2 years, you know, that ain't even that's hardly enough time to raise a group of heifers to a point where they can produce a calf. And so I gotta scratch this guy's neck or he's gonna start hitting me. This guy right here. And so, well, that's one of the bigger questions on my plate right now is, do I want to buy land or do I want to rent it? If I rent it, I can rent twice as much. If I bought it, it would be half the amount of land, but I would own it. And I have the capital now. I have about $5,000 already, just because of that escrow overage check. They called it an escrow overage refund, and I don't know why they gave it to me, but I'm not gonna ask. You know what I'm saying? It was from my mortgage company, so I ain't gonna call them and ask about it. I'm just gonna deposit it, and if they call me, then that's fine. Because I mean they sent me the check, right? So I have the money to do it. I actually have the money to do it right now. And so, yep, that's the big question. Is, do I want to lease or do I want to own? If I own, I'd only be able to own half as much land. But if I leased, I could get twice as much land for the same amount of money. But the lease, you know, the only thing I'd be willing to do on a piece of lease property is grow hay on it. Because if they told me I had to, that they were going to sell the property to a developer and that I had to get off the field right now, I could leave right then and not worry about it. You know, now I could have made all my money back. I don't have to worry about pulling a bunch of cattle off of it or anything. So, yep. I got to figure out if I'm going to drill my front field later today so that the 80% chance of rain, well, half an inch of rain ain't going to hydrate that field. That field up front is so dry right now because I plowed it so hard. It's got a lot of air in it and it's bone dry. So a half inch of rain, ain't gonna fix it. But it may be enough to wash seed away. If it rains a little bit more than a half an inch, it could end up washing a whole bunch of seed away. So, or moving a whole bunch of seed around because of that hard pan. I gotta figure that out, and then I gotta go give an estimate to the man about 20 minutes away. I gotta go give him an estimate on planting a 15-acre grass pasture. So, yep, got a lot on my plate today. It's gonna be a good day, and it feels real good outside. It's gonna be a real good one. But y'all have a good one today, YouTube.